Cavaliers back on the court tonight for the first time since losing to the Warriors. And in the days since, there's been a whole lot of soul-searching going on in Cleveland. First, the multiple reports that marquee players don't think that the team's root problems are fixable with this current roster. Then, when reporters directly asked if the Cavs have enough to win this year, Coach Ty Lue said yes, but LeBron just sidestepped the question. He added that this is his most challenging season since returning to Cleveland, and there are numbers to support him. Cleveland has lost 9 of its last 12. Only Sacramento and Phoenix are playing worse defense, and Isaiah Thomas still clearly getting his legs under him. IT called those first couple games when he was powered by adrenaline, quote, fool's gold. Well, since then, he has been shooting just 28%, but because he does eat up a lot of the Cavs' shots, players like Kevin Love have also seen their numbers go down to make room for him. And Jay Crowder, I mean, look, we're more than halfway through the season, and he is a shadow of what he was in Boston. All in all, it's not great, but let's get real. What can Cleveland do about all this? Is there a roster change even out there for them? There's been a lot of talk about trying to acquire DeAndre Jordan, who would certainly bolster the team's defense. But there's also an argument he'd hamper things too much for the Cavs offensively, particularly at the end of games. There are less flashy names like Kent Bazemore floating around, longer shots like prying C.J. McCollum out of Portland. There was a time it seemed Paul George might be available before the deadline. Right now, that seems less likely. And then, of course, the other big question. If a deal is out there for Cleveland, how tightly will Dan Gilbert hold on to that Brooklyn pick that came as part of the Kyrie trade? Multiple reports say the Cavaliers just won't trade that pick no matter what. They want it as insurance in case LeBron James leaves this summer as a way to quickly reboot the franchise. Problem there is that pick might not be at a franchise restarting spot in the draft. Right now, it is projected at number 6 overall, a spot where you are just much less likely to hit on a transcendent talent. For example, the number 6 pick this past year was Jonathan Isaac. And no matter who you pick, you're definitely not going to get a talent equal to, LeBron James. So one might argue that if your goal specifically is to really make sure your franchise is competitive and profitable in the next few years, the best use of that pick is to trade it to make this team better so LeBron is incentivized to stay. And I do think that if the team is competitive enough in a finals, there is a good chance that LeBron would stay even without actually beating the Warriors. I can also pretty much guarantee you he will not stay if the Celtics beat Cleveland to come out of the East, especially after the Cavs front office handed Kyrie Irving over to Boston. Bottom line, there is a lot for Cleveland to consider in the next 3 weeks before the trade deadline. Let the soul-searching continue. Tracy McGrady, are the Cavs' problems fixable, and would you give up that Brooklyn pick to do it?
I think they're fixable. However, you're going to have to make some trades.
Okay.
I look at, you could get out of the Eastern Conference with this roster. I feel that.
Do you feel that?
I feel they could get out of the Eastern Conference with this roster.
There's been some growing doubt about that.
Well, IT is not healthy. Once he gets his legs under him and get in basketball shape, I think, he'll find a rhythm and those guys will start to play well. However, this roster is not good enough to beat Golden State Warriors, Houston Rockets. Mm-hmm. If you look at how Houston Rockets constructed their roster surrounding shooters, James Harden, it's similar to how Golden State plays.
Yeah.
These guys don't have the athleticism. They're old, they're slow, and they just don't have the length and the athleticism and the shooting to compete with Golden State or Houston Rockets, whoever comes out of the West. I don't think there's anybody out there that he can bring in this year and help them get over the edge. I just don't see it.
I just look at it this way, is that the additions that were brought in to fill Kyrie's spot has yet to be filled, offensively or defensively. And I think when you look at the Cleveland Cavaliers team, you realize that they're not a team that plays hard in the regular season anymore. Not to say that they don't play hard, but they're not playing to be number one. I think Boston has truly taken over that slot and will have it for years to come. But for Cleveland, I believe that there's a switch for them. As long as they have LeBron James, it's very difficult for LeBron James to come out and play hard throughout a regular season. He's been to 7 NBA Finals in a row, and he's an older player. So the expectations during the regular season for LeBron is a little bit too high. But I think come playoff time, closer to the postseason, this team will start to, I guess, jail.
LeBron is not the problem, though.
No, he's not the problem. I think the problem is Isaiah and Crowder has not filled the void.
They need more, though.
They need.
They can't stop anybody.
Yeah, well, defensively is what's going to win a championship for them. If they're going to get better, they have to get better on the defense.
They can't defend.
They can't be a team that can score
Okay,
120
so
points.
if they're offered a trade and the trade involves that Brooklyn pick, are you guys with sort of what seems to be the front office opinion, don't trade the pick no matter what? Or do you think it is worth trading the pick if it might keep LeBron around?
I wouldn't trade the pick.
I wouldn't
Tell
trade
me
the
why.
pick.
I wouldn't trade a pick unless I get a commitment from LeBron that he's coming
But tell
back.
me why.
Based on last year's record, you're still the second best team in the league.
Right.
You have to get back to playing to that level and then identify what your team needs. And again, I think the additions that they brought in have yet to get that chemistry to mix. And it's still a lot more basketball to be played, so it's not like the season is over
Right.
for them to panic.
But they got to decide within the next 3 weeks.
Chemistry
so that's-
takes time, and this is a situation where it's taken a lot longer than what it has for the ball.
When you guys say I wouldn't trade the pick, I think there's still this idea. People hear Brooklyn pick and they know that last year that turned into a #1 overall pick. We are talking about a pick that could end up 6, 7, 8. It is a different draft this year, and I know it's a deeper draft, but again, you could end up with, say, a Jonathan Isaac, and if you kind of, to me, have to look at trading this pick as possibly trading to keep LeBron James. And if you could end up with a Jonathan Isaac level player versus keeping LeBron, who would you pick in that scenario?
If I can't get a Paul George type player or Anthony Davis, I'm not trading it.
It'd have to be a guy of that level.
It has
You
to
have
be.
to get a veteran player.
Right.
You're not
Right.
starting over.
Right. And I would say that if you could get someone like that and then really feel super competitive in the finals, it would be worth doing that because then, again, more toward getting LeBron to stay. It's complicated, and it is hard to safeguard your future while also trying to win in the present.